Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first of our four-part webinar series, I should say, ESP Rights and Respect, How to Build a Strategic Campaign. Tonight, we are joined by our colleagues in Massachusetts from the Massachusetts Teachers Association. Thank you all for putting your name and where you're from in our chat. It's great to see everyone. I see a lot of people we haven't heard from for a while. Welcome, Jean Fay. Good to see you here. I see Ohio, Florida, Maryland, Indiana, Utah. Great to see everyone. So tonight my name is Lisa Connor, and I am the manager in the ESP Quality Department. And tonight we're going to start with our land acknowledgement. We want to save as much time as possible to jump right into our webinar. So we'll begin by acknowledging that wherever we are in our state or country, we meet on tribal lands. We honor America's first people, all elders, past and present, and emerging, and we are called on to learn and share what we learn about tribal history, culture, and contributions that have been suppressed in telling the story of America. So tonight we are here for an hour and a half, and we're going to do some quick introductions and set the foundation. We'll have a short 15-minute Q&A session. Then we'll go into the second part of the webinar, Building to Win, Recognition and Support for Education Support Professionals. We'll have a little more time for some Q&A at the end. All of our participants should be muted, but just in case, you may want to mute your microphone. As questions come up, you're welcome to use the Q&A feature, and we will collect questions here for our panelists. And then at the end, we'll have a quick wrap up and survey. We will share the PowerPoint as well as some materials at the end, and we will also share a link to our new Ed Communities site. This is a site for NEA members, leaders, and staff, and we will have all of the materials from our webinar series here, as well as an opportunity for participants to share ideas, chat, ask questions, that type of thing. This webinar is being recorded, and so we will have this available for members, staff, and leaders who couldn't join us tonight. That'll be hosted on the Ed Community site as well. So tonight, I want to just start with a few introductions. We have Katie Montiero from Weymouth Public Schools. Katie is an instructional assistant or a paraeducator, and she is also involved in the MTA ESP Leadership Mentoring Program. She serves as a mentor in that program. We also have Peggy Boyle, who's also an instructional assistant or paraeducator in the Easton Public Schools, who is a ESP member organizer. And we have Sonia Fortan, who is an MTA ESP organizer. She's a full-time MTA ESP staff. She's a former ESP member and graduate of the ESP Leadership Institute. So I'd like to welcome our panelists and turn it over to you. Thank you.
So I think we can go to the next slide.
Thank you all for having us. We're really excited to be here. We wanted to share who we are. We are the Massachusetts Teachers Association. We have approximately 115,000 members. 20,000 of those members are ESPs, over 400 locals and chapters. We represent both pre-K to 12 as well as higher ed locals. We have a great mix of people. We are teachers, we are faculty, professional staff, we have educational support professionals. We all working at public schools, colleges, and universities across Massachusetts. Next slide, please.
So, hi, I'm Sonia. So first we need to kind of set the foundation. The MTA assembled a team of ESPs, all recognized ESP leaders throughout Massachusetts, to form the ESP Standard Task Force. So the origin of the task force was to bring ESPs and try to figure out what ESPs wanted and needed from the MTA. So part of the team, there were 5 leaders and activists. I was one of them. And we started working and meeting in the fall of 2019. And our task was to really identify the needs of ESP's members. And we realized as we were having conversation that we didn't know who the members were. So we decided members from that group decided to create an ESP statewide survey to gather information to really figure out what was going on with ESPs and what was their struggle and what they wanted. And from that, the ESP bell rates came exact from the responses that we got from the survey. And the ESP bell rates launched. And then following that, we had many living wage campaigns that kind of exploded throughout Massachusetts. A lot of great work is being done right now to improve working and living condition of ESPs. So I'm just going to give a little bit of data about what our results from the survey was. So 93% were females, 59% had 10 years or more of experience. 75 of ESPs have degrees. There's a misconception that ESPs are not educated, and that's so far from the truth. Like we are a very experienced group and educated group of people. And I say we because I used to be an ESP myself. I'm now a staff, but it's kind of like one of those things, once an ESP, always an ESP. So I definitely like speak about my experience. And I consider myself still an ESP on many occasions. And then 84%, that was like a key finding, 84% of our members earn less than $30,000. I don't know where you're from, but in Massachusetts, it's very expensive to live in Massachusetts. The cost of housing, food, transportation is very high. So 30,000 is not even a drop in the bucket. And even with additional jobs, we all know that many ESPs have multiple jobs. Still with that, 73% made less than 30%. So those are data that came from our survey when we launched, I think around, we met in 2019 and it was the following year. But the data from the survey was extremely important. It helped us identify specific issues and create a plan to advocate for better working and living condition. And we also took that data and utilized that to really shed a light about our conditions and to educate teachers, and also to bring it to our board of directors, the MTA board of directors, and presented the data. And it was kind of a great way to like seek their support. Next slide.
Hi all, I'm Peggy. This is the ESP Bill of Rights that we created. As you can see, it says the MTA pre-K educational support professionals play critically important roles in our public schools, providing individual and small group instruction to students with disabilities, assisting in early education classes, supporting English learners, driving buses, preparing meals, keeping schools clean, and performing a myriad of administrative and education support functions. We made this Bill of Rights. It is available in 4 different languages, and we also have a higher ed Bill of Rights and an adjuncts Bill of Rights.
So I just want to add the language that are available is in English. Obviously, we have it in Spanish, Albanian, and Portuguese. But our members know that if there's another language that's needed, we're very committed to make it accessible to all our members. So it's just a matter of knowing what's needed, and then we create it. Next slide.
Slide.
Thank you.
We're too far back. We need to go back.
Are we missing a slide?
We're supposed, slide 9 actually has the bill itself.
Okay.
Anyway, we can talk about.
I can speak to it. That's okay. Yeah. Why don't we just move? I'll speak to it, and we can find that and maybe put it in the chat if that's available. So one of the main things that we needed to make sure that all our members got was a living wage. Obviously, Sonia was just saying that our members are not paid according to the expense of it is how we live in Massachusetts is extremely expensive. You can see from our data that too many of our ESPs just do not earn a living wage. And a living wage in our state is between $34,000 and $51,000 a year. And some of our ESPs make under the state minimum, which currently is $12 an hour. And so that was number one that we put in there, made sure that that was the first topic that we discussed. Affordable health insurance is another issue that we see. We believe that no ESPs should have to bring home a zero paycheck because they're paying for benefits. It's something that has been past practice, and we believe that it's just unacceptable. And we need to make sure that all paychecks reflect at least the state minimum. So the district should be able to make up the rest. We have a clause in there for health and safety. I'm sorry, health and safety is another topic that we're discussing in our Bill of Rights. We as ESPs are vulnerable. We are often put in some unsafe positions and jobs. We are at greater risk of being a victim of emotional abuse and physical abuse, especially verbal, as we all are, and bullying in the workplace. So we would like to make sure that we address that in our Bill of Rights. We also are looking for paid family and medical leave. Because of the state law, we as ESPs do not qualify for paid family and medical leave, even if they contribute. We also don't work enough, typically, don't work enough hours, sorry, to qualify for FMLA. So a lot of districts do not allow ESPs to take it. So that is something that we believe everyone should have a right to have. Job security is something that everybody should have. We do not know, a lot of us don't know if we're going to have a job from year to year. Some of us don't even find out our positions till August when we are going back in September. We absolutely demand that we are going to eliminate that unnecessary job insecurity. And we also demand that a probation period does not extend the 90 days. We also think it's extremely important that we're recognized as educators. We play a crucial role in the part of educating our students. We are sometimes the first people they see and the last people they see of the day. We deserve a meaningful and impactful professional development as well. A lot of times, in some cases, buildings will say, you know, you're going to just make copies for the teachers. Well, that's not developing us professionally, and we demand that our districts are providing us with development for our job category. We would also like affordable education to strengthen our careers. So a lot of us earn less than $30,000 a year, even though the majority of us, over 80% actually, have degrees. And we demand that we have a system in place that reduces our student debt. So we believe that with making these statements and that our districts will not only sign on to this, but we can use it in our bargaining as well. So next slide, please.
Great. So Peggy mentioned a little bit about having a higher ed Bill of Rights for classified and adjuncts. So that's something that came later. So the ESP pre-K through 12 Bill of Rights was created. We launched it. We started organizing around it, and members organized. But then the higher ed, they didn't have anything. So what they decided, the members decided after looking at our Bill of Rights to create their own. So they formed coalition groups and they developed, which was launched early this year, in the spring, I should say. So at the end of the day, like when we look at all three Bill of Rights, we all want job security. That's a big issue. We all want fair pay. Retirement, that's something that we don't have on our bill, but it's obviously like we want dignified retirement. And at the end of the day, we all are struggling with the same thing, but we recognize that as member, although we have different bills, higher ed is different than pre-K through 12, we can come together and work together. So for this year, we actually started working in coalition that's been extremely powerful. And all groups are working together. We're presenting, we're doing workshops throughout the states to really highlight the struggles that we have, that pre-K through 12 are not more important than higher ed because we have more members. Like, we all matter, and the situation and the working conditions of all ESPs, including adjuncts, matters, and we all have to work towards it to improve everybody's living and working condition. And at the end of the day, it's all about a collective power, and that's something I believe in Massachusetts that members really understand. The more we have members organizing, the more powerful we are as a union, as a local, as different groups. Next slide.
This is the MTA living wage calculator. It's a tool that was made by MIT, and it's on the MTA website, and our members are using it to calculate their living wage. This calculator helps the members figure out how much they should be making, and they can take this information and bring it back to their local and their bargaining team. So as you can see, they can put in their town, how many days a year they work, and then it will come up with what they should be making as a income. Next slide. This is a map of the folks that have endorsed our Bill of Rights. So it's getting the MTA leadership's endorsement was first. We did that, and then we reached out to locals to have them endorse the ESP Bill of Rights. We educated them about the issues, and then once they did endorse as a local, they get a flag on the map. So this is a visual to show where we need to do some more work or where we're doing great work, but we're going to get this whole thing covered eventually. Next slide.
So I just want to add before we go to Q&A, Lisa, about the map. One of the things that happened to get those local to endorse the Bill of Rights was that members actually were the one calling the local president. Members actually putting pressure on the locals leadership to endorse the Bill of Rights. When they see, and we do have sometimes president call us like, hey, we're not on the map, like what can we do? Like, it has become kind of like this cool thing that members local, because like the president's name is going to show up, like they want to have their flags on the map. And we get a lot of calls and emails from local leadership about like, hey, like what do I need to do? And for us, what it means for endorsement is a myriads of things. It's members getting together as a meeting and saying like, we're going to be endorsing the Bill of Rights. Sometimes it's local leaders as executive boards are deciding to endorse a Bill of Rights on behalf, but it's also, what do you do with the Bill of Rights once you endorse it? Members are using it to organize. We have a lot of demands, and those are all issues, real issues that ESPs have. And they can use that to organize around those specific issues of whatever's going on in their building. So I just wanted to kind of add a little bit to what Peggy had said.
Thanks, Sonia. I think that map is so powerful because it almost creates this sort of fear of missing out, right? If you don't see your flag on there, it's like, I want to be on the map. So a few questions. You mentioned that you translated your Bill of Rights into 4 different languages. Can you talk a little bit about, do you have someone on your team that does that, or how did you get it translated, and how did you decide which languages to translate it into?
Yeah, so I'll speak to that. So the first one was English, obviously, but I believe the language that came after was Albanian. In the Boston area, we have a large community of Albanian, and our president at the time is also Albanian, so it kind of made sense. But what we do is that we send actually our document directly to UMass Amherst university. There's a translation center, and they can translate any document in any language that you want, and for a very minimal cost. And it's usually like the turnaround is about 2 to 3 weeks, so it's very fast. And then we also have Spanish was our next language that was translated. And then I had a president, actually from the town where I'm from, where they needed Portuguese because they have a very large, in Framingham, we have a very large Portuguese community. And it was the request of one president, but it was so worth it. And that's why I said earlier, like, if we have members that are asking for different language, if Creole, French, whatever, I'm extremely committed to make sure, and MTA is very committed, that our documents are very accessible. Especially with ESPs, we have, a very large immigration pool of members, and it's important to us that we make it as accessible as possible. So it's a quick email, send a document, it comes back, it's beautiful, and it's done. And then we post it on our website, and then anytime that we have conferences, annual meetings, whatnot, when we all are Bill of Rights in all 4 languages are available at the table. So that's something that we travel with all our member organizers when they're going to events and organizing events. They have that in their bag, and they bring that in case they need a member that needs it in a different language.
That's awesome. It creates a real sense of inclusion, I think, to have it in the different languages. Okay. One of our participants asked, is there a survey template available? You talked about surveying your members. Do you have a template?
No, but what we did is that we worked with Rocker University. We actually, this was such an important survey that the MTA invested quite a bit of funding to get that survey done. So we had a professional that helped us develop the survey, but it was based on our feedback. So we don't have a template,
Okay.
but I can say, like, the questions were really like, kind of like your health insurance, how much do you pay for your health insurance? Can you afford your health insurance? Professional, like any of these demands were like all questions that were related. How much are you making? What's your gender? Because that was important for us to know. Another thing that we have to like address is that a lot of our members that are ESPs are actually on the later end of their career. So we are already experiencing a shortage of educators. So when those educators are moving on, and we don't have anybody to replace them, we're going to have a huge crisis in our hands, which I believe it's already happening, but I think it's going to be exponentially even worse in a few years.
Okay. Peggy or Katie, did you want to add to that at all?
I think Sonia did a great job. Thank you.
Okay. The next question is actually one for probably NEA. So each state or union will have their own Bill of Rights. And I can say that NEA is developing a national Bill of Rights based on member input. It's led by our ESP Careers Committee, which is a committee of the NEA Board of Directors. But each and the National Bill of Rights is meant to be a model. So Sonia, Peggy, and Katie all talked about how important it was for member voice in creating their Bill of Rights. And I think that you'll see through this webinar series that each of the states that participates has their own Bill of Rights. And so each state essentially will have their own Bill of Rights. Many of the issues will be similar, but it really depends on what's important to your members, and you'll find that out as you have those conversations. Do y'all want to add to that at all? No? Okay. The next question is, have people been generally supportive at the outset? If not, why not?
I don't know if somebody wants to take it. I was part of the team from the beginning, so like I can speak to that, but I want to leave the space for Katie or Peggy.
I can speak to, oh, sorry, Peggy. I can speak to my experience personally in we had a very supportive district in the beginning. We're very lucky, and we had a lot of buy-in, and that was mainly because it was members who led the push for our Bill of Rights. And it wasn't just our ESPs, it was our entire staff. It was teachers, it was assistant principals, because we're a wall-to-wall union. So it was really just a force of our entire collaboration of all educators together, pushing for this specific group to have the same rights and benefits that they do.
Great.
To add to that, I kind of feel like our data really helped. Educators, the teachers, the school administrators, the board of directors at the MTA, the staff at the MTA really help. When you work alongside somebody and you finally are told, hey, I make $15 an hour and I only get paid 6 hours a day. I make 20-some $1,000, and putting a number to like the situation of what's going on, people really realize the struggle, and it's everybody's responsibility to change that. And I think like once we have the data and we educate members and they really truly understand like what our situation is or the ESP situation is, it makes it a lot easier for people to support. But the education part is sometimes a little bit slow because everybody's busy. We have to admit everybody's busy. And sometimes it's hard to reach people, but the more outreach that we do and the more education, the more support we're getting across the board. And I have to say that Katie's district actually is the only district so far that has had their school committee endorse the Bill of Rights. And Katie's going to talk about that later, but we actually have a school committee that has endorsed. And we also have several coalition that are not related to the MTA, but are people that are groups are activists and care about our students and our educators and the education as a whole. So they also have endorsed our bill.
Great. The next question is, how much time did you spend collecting insight from members, and will you continue to collect member feedback?
You mean, I'm assuming that it was about the data that we collected. Okay. So the data was collected for maybe 4 months or so, 5 months. I don't quite remember because it's a while ago. And what we did in order to an email went out to all of my ESP members inviting them to fill the survey, but we also traveled to the all presidents meeting. So we have throughout the states, we have at the beginning of the year, all presidents meeting. And we had ESPs show up, talk about the issues that we had, and invited people and local president to bring back the information about the survey to complete it. And every time we did that, we saw a bump in and the responses from our survey.
Great. So the next question you may actually get to in the second part of the webinar, how are you measuring success?
Well, we have some locals, and we will talk about it, that have had some extreme success with their living wage campaign and organizing. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but that's one way they're measuring success. The other one is how many locals are endorsing the Bill of Rights, and how many locals are using it at the bargaining table. We moved from having very little locals that had living wage campaign or any kind of campaign related to their bargaining, but now we have more locals than none that are using the Bill of Rights to bargain. And we do collect data on that.
Okay. So I hear you talk about using the Bill of Rights really as sort of a bargaining guideline. In Massachusetts, you do bargain, and as a guideline for locals and what they want to achieve during their bargain.
Yes.
Okay. Has this attracted new members?
Yes. Not only I can speak to that. not only new members, but actually whole units that have organized, because they see the wins that the organized locals or, you know, our units are winning, and they're great contracts, and it's bringing people that are part of the districts that were never interested in forming a union. But we do have several unions or local units that have established themselves, or sometimes we have a group of ESPs that were not organized within the umbrella of their union. You know, sometimes it could be, I think, Katie, you guys had the clerical and the secretary. One was organized, the other one wasn't, but they were actually 35 members. Katie, if you wanted to speak to that, just join the union.
Yeah, we were actually fortunate that we took this ESP Bill of Rights, brought it back to our district, and showed all members and non-members. And we had a group of secretaries who we have been trying to sign on to the union or form a unit. And it actually wasn't until they saw everything that we were fighting for and that we were winning, and other districts were winning with this ESP Bill of Rights, then they have decided to now, we've got them to form their own unit, and they are actually, they're signing on to be a new union members. And also just recently we added the childcare staff to the ESP unit, because they also came to us and said, look at all the wins you're getting with this. We would like to come on. How do we do it? So it's been a real conversation starter with those who are non-union members who would like to come into our unit or into our local. So it's been, that's one way to help your recruitment.
Great. An awesome organizing tool. So the question is, have people or groups outside of labor endorsed the Bill of Rights? If yes, and how do you plan to engage them?
Would you like me to speak to that? So we have actually, we will get to that in our second part of how we are engaging our community. But one way that we do it is through just conversations with, you know, we as staff, a lot of us work in the district that we live in. So just conversations with people out and about in the community, and when you're maybe at the soccer field, or, you know, if you're out at a basketball game, or something with your child or your niece or your nephew, and we're really talking it up and getting the information out there to everybody, not only just the school committee members, but with our local special education parent advisory committees. They have become a great ally to us, because we're the ones who are always the one-on-ones with their children. We're the supportive people who are really working with them on their IEP goals. So it was important that we spoke and met with, they're called the CPAC, so the Special Ed Parent Advisory Committee, and explained to them what our goal was. And once they got a hold of the information and understood what we were doing, they ran with it, and they're advocating for us as well. So that's a whole nother avenue that you could take to help spread the word outside of the union.
Great. And sort of related to this, but someone asks, as a retired education support professional, how can we best support our active ESP members in getting 100% of the locals signed on to the ESP Bill of Rights? I love that too, Katie.
I can take it. Peggy, I don't know if you want to speak to that or.
Go ahead.
Okay. We first we did have the retired member committee endorse the Bill of Rights like a long time ago, and we're continuously having conversation with them. One of the things in Massachusetts is that it's actually difficult to identify the retired ESPs because we're on a different retirement system, and that information doesn't get communicated. So we have an infrastructure issue. but nevertheless, we do have some ESPs who are former members, and one is go back to your local, have you endorsed the ESP Bill of Rights? If not, like, what can we do, and try to educate them. If we had started the Bill of Rights and had really truly dedicated, efforts on living wage campaign and really like uplifting our wages a long time ago, because we're so behind. Imagine how much better shape our current retirees would be. Because I always say, like, you make nothing, you're poor throughout your career, you're certainly going to retire even poorer. So imagine if we had done this work that we're doing now 20, 50 years ago, we would be in such a much better place. I think the work of retired members is extremely important, and it's part of the coalition that we're trying to build. But we also have to recognize that we have a lot of work to do. But our campaign is an evolution campaign. We're trying to bring member, ready and to fight the good fight. Not everybody's there, but we're working really hard to make it happen.
Thank you. I love that people are thinking about that partnership. And there's so many important partners in our community, not only in our education community, our teacher colleagues, retired colleagues, even aspiring educator colleagues, and as well as, parents. Okay, the next two questions, and then we're going to move on to the second part of your webinar, have to deal with the survey. One is, what was your rate of return on the survey, and how long was the survey window open, and how did you promote the completion of the survey? That's a three-part question.
So I think the survey was open for about 4 months, but at that point I was a member and I was, part of the team, but so I don't quite remember. I was not part of the staff, but I do remember the last meeting that we had as a team to review the survey result, and then deciding that the Bill of Rights was the right way to go about it. So the window is a little bit hard for me to say, but I think about 4 months. And like I said, we traveled throughout the state to get the awareness of it. And then what we did after that was to get the endorsement of the MTA Board of Directors, because that's the first stop basically that needs to happen. Our MTA leaders, president, vice presidents, and staff were extremely supportive, but the board is where it started. And then we just went from that. And I'm hoping that I'm answering that question. And it's been an evolution. And then the actually launch of the bill was when we really started the work.
So I heard you talk about a lot of going around the state and talking to people, and then you also shared the survey via email, I think, to most of the ESP members. Was that information provided to you by your state affiliate, a list of the ESP members and their email addresses, or how did you know who to reach out to?
So as a member, this is where the staff portion is extremely important, the MTA staff, because they have access to all members' emails. So that came from them. So it came as our leaders, president emailed all ESPs. That's kind of the structure that we follow here in Massachusetts. Emails are official, and that was an official email went out from our leaders, but it was on behalf of the standard task force.
Okay, great. Okay, and then the next question is an NEA question. Can NEA collect a sample survey questions from states who have Bill of Rights to share with those of us just getting started? And the answer to that is sure, we will be happy to do that. In fact, we have a national survey that we just put out that's going to influence the national ESP Bill of Rights. My colleague Saul Ramos is going to put that link to that survey in the chat. He just put that there. We would encourage all ESP members to share your voice and answer the survey and share it with your colleagues as well. It is available in Spanish and English. I think Saul is going to put both of those. There you go. He put them both in the chat. So, but yes, we absolutely can collect that. That's a great idea. And we will put that on our Ed Community site, which we'll share here in the chat. All right, so we're going to turn it back over to our presenters for section 2. For more Q&A at the end, we will have another 15 minutes available, so feel free to continue to add questions to the Q&A.
All right, so building to win recognition and support for ESPs. So there's multiple ways that we used to build and win support, not just by educating our members, but as we were just discussing, our leaders and communities. And it was important that, I believe Sonia had mentioned it earlier, that a lot of our teachers were unaware, and other staff members are unaware of how little we actually made and the issues that we were having. So it was really important that we started at a very local level and educated just even the people in our own buildings to understand that, you know, we are doing all of this work. You see what we are doing, and we're still unable to make a minimum wage, and it's unacceptable. So that was the important part, is just making people aware of what's happening. We have to change the way we think and approach bargaining. An important piece is by taking this ESP Bill of Rights and creating proposals out of it and bringing those proposals to the table and incorporating the Bill of Rights into our contract. And that is something that in my own local we're doing. We had taken this, or currently working on, we took the ESP Bill of Rights, and we have created proposals for each section of the ESP Bill of Rights to bring to our school committee, and these are our sticking points. This is the expectation in our upcoming negotiations. So another important piece is our collective power and solidarity that also speaks to getting everyone involved in our local, not just our ESPs, but our teachers and our specialized support staff and some of our administrative staff. It is extremely important to organize the rank and file and get everyone involved. And honestly, once people hear what we actually go through and what little we're making, and the issue of respect comes to the table, it's really not that difficult to get them to buy in and say, we're with you. It's very important. And most recently through our legislators, all efforts ultimately lead to our statewide living wage campaign. And in support of our local living wage campaigns, it's so important that we all understand that it's not just a wage to live on, but we need to survive. People are not surviving on the wages that they're making. They're not able to pay their bills, and it's time that we step up and support all of our ESPs. Next slide, please.
This is education to increase awareness and support. We've taken several approaches to increase the awareness about the ESP Bill of Rights and our living wage campaign. And these are examples of our social media presence. Every week we have an MTA member, mostly ESPs, speak about one of the ESP Bill of Rights demands. And we put them on social media. And we feel that putting a face to an ESP's key issues and demands increases support. We also have our members and ESP member organizers meet with the local leadership. We go to the all president meetings, and we speak during the MTA board of directors. We have a presence during all the meetings and conferences, including the ESP Bill of Rights workshops. So these are the social media. We take turns, we put them out. Every week we send a new one out with a new quote from each of the sticking points from the ESP Bill of Rights. Next slide. So this is a team of ESP member organizers, and we have emailed and called all our local presidents to invite them to endorse the ESP Bill of Rights. So these are postcards that we've made with faces of ESPs. And starting this month, local presidents who have not endorsed ESP bill of rights yet will get a postcard encouraging them to endorse the bill. And if they don't endorse it, they'll receive another postcard with increasing urgency and so on. So this is a visual of showing the ESPs and then increasing more all of the ESPs and why this is important. Next slide, please.
So earlier in a previous slide, Katie talked about bargaining. So I just wanted to dive in a little bit more into that. So Massachusetts as a whole, MTA members are moving away from traditional bargaining. So like that's closed door bargaining, and are moving towards expanded or open bargaining. So just so you know, like expanded bargaining, this is where we have members of actually any units within the locals attend a bargaining session as silent representatives. So for example, if we have teachers that are bargaining at the table, we have actually ESPs attending those sessions as silent reps. It's not happening in every local, but more and more locals realize the power that it has to have silent representative. Also, you know, like when you're bargaining, you usually like have teachers, so depending on where you are in your state, but at least in Massachusetts, and my experience when I was in ESP, the teachers went first, they bargained when they were done, ESPs went, and we always got stuck in the summer to bargain. And who wants to bargain in the summer? We're on vacation, right? And we deserve the vacation. And then after that, the secretary went, and then the custodian. That was my local. But having silent representative, I assume the district could not play games anymore, because and when you're behind closed doors, you can't communicate with your members freely. But having silent representative, those representatives are there to help caucus when you're caucusing, but they also are there to spread the information about what happened at the bargaining table. And it's a great way to to help increase member engagement, educate members about bargaining process, because you always want to build a capacity and look at the next generation of who's going to be bargaining at the table. And it puts the pressure on the districts to set a better contract. And it's really working well for us. So this is actually something that was made possible to have silent representative from different units based on two cases that are called Belmont 1 and Belmont 2. You can Google it. You probably could find it online. So Belmont 1 was basically the Belmont Education Association that wanted to have more members at the table. The district walked out on them, and they pushed back, and they actually won their case. Belmont 2, that was when they brought members from different unit, and the same thing happened, and they won their case. So because of that, in Massachusetts, it has become part of the law that we can actually have members from different units attend. But locals are actually pushing the envelope, which we love. In Massachusetts, we're really good about pushing the envelope. And they're now inviting members from different locals and presidents to attend their own bargaining unit. And it's not considered open because open, both sides has to agree, but silent representative, you don't have to agree to that. So the districts might say, no, we don't, but we have, we actually hold the power on that. And the way we're seeing it is that members, even if they're from different locals, are still MTA members. So we've been pushing the needle on that. And then we also, another important part of what MTA has done was to hire 3 staff to work solely on bargaining advice strategy. They're bargaining strategists, and they're really there to help first as staff creating all these tools, but all these tools now are made available to members. So if you want to know how to look at your town finances, we have those tools available for members, and they can actually learn how to do that. We have bargaining certification that are available to all members, not just a bargaining team. And we believe by educating members how to bargain better contracts and having how to utilize all these tools, that it just makes us as a whole much more powerful. So we also have bargaining summits, one that's coming up in 2 weeks, and they're always related around, bargaining coalition and various topics, but it's really, they're very made to bring coalition and empower members, because we really believe in the rank and file organizing and bargaining. Lastly, I already talked about the wage comparable. Those are available to all members. We have inflation tools, contract language, and we also have some kind of like documents that are bargaining advice related to the Bill of Rights, and I'm working on it currently to develop that into an actual professional looking booklet that's going to be made available to all members. So there's going to be model language, contract language related to each of the demands. There's going to be information about what the statutes are, and various a lot of other information. So that should be launched hopefully soon. Next slide. So earlier, one of the question was, what do we do? Do we have other groups endorsing our Bill of Rights? So one of the things that we've been doing in some of our regions, so just so you know, Massachusetts is divided into 5 regions. And within those regions, we've had a lot of groups get together and do coalition work. So the regional networks, they are member-led. That's extremely important. Like, sometimes staff will attend those, but they're just there to attend. They're not there to lead the meeting. So it's member-led, it's member-driven. And those groups, coalition groups, set bargaining standards and goals. For example, they'll say, as several locals, we are adamant that we're going to set a standard. Our goal is to get $40,000 for our ESPs, and they'll decide that they won't settle their contract within all these locals without, making sure that they all reach a certain kind of threshold. And the superintendents and the school committees know that these locals are working together because the same party stories are happening, and it's usually the same lawyers, but it's very powerful. And they also show up for each other's bargaining session and organizing events. So locals are supporting each other. They're showing up. Sometimes it's just like you want numbers to create that pressure. And those coalition networks have been extremely impactful. They build solidarity, power, collective power. And with that, we've won incredible wage campaign. One of the things, if you're a member and you're like, well, I'm not a local leader, or president or whatever, I don't have that power. You actually do have that power in your hand. I remember when COVID hit, ESPs weren't really getting the information that was coming up from the state. Usually like your state leaders will communicate to your president. It's up to your president if they're going to communicate that with their members. But as a group of ESPs, we got together and we started having those organizing conversations, and it was just for ESPs, and the numbers of ESPs that attended those meetings grew and grew. And our goal was to share the information and organize around the issues that we had around COVID. And those were led by members. It was just one member setting meeting with a couple of people, and it just grew and grew like that. So you have the power in your hand to really organize and create the change that you want in your district. Next slide. So just to kind of go back a little bit about the Bill of Rights. So we created an organizing plan, and the plan was actually created by members. So we went to a region, a zone 1 for us was Zone 1 Organizing Institute. I don't think it was an institute, but it was a weekend that we got together, and ESPs got together and really kind of develop the organizing plan based on like what we wanted. We set goals, benchmark, set timelines. Timelines are extremely important. By this day, we need to have this and this and this done, because it helps people accountable. Because if we don't meet those benchmark and timelines, then we have to reassess. But if you're just gonna say, hey, we're gonna do X, and then you just hope that it's gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. You have to really work and stay focused on your goals. So part of our plan was to actually hire 5 ESP members organizers. So we have Peggy's here. She's one of our member organizers. So we hire people from each of the region to meet with members, support local living wage campaign, organizing, provide resources. And it's so much more powerful to actually have a member speak to a member about the fear of organizing or stepping, on the side, with a picket line, like, however, like sometimes it can be very, or even sometimes just wearing a t-shirt or a button, but we have a lot of resources that are made available, and it's all happening through our member organizer. And we understand that the power comes from them. And we also, part of our organizing plan is that we have summer member organizers that are working specifically throughout the summer to target specific local and recruit member. Next slide. Sorry, I'm like coughing. So
That's okay.
yes,
I'll take it. Katie locked her internet. This is what
you.
happens. These are just photos of ESPs organizing. We get out there, we have signs, we have kids out there, we have homemade signs. And this is just a photo showing some of the standouts we've done. We do have our vice president and president of MTA in these photos as well. They do get out there with us as well. Sonia, did you have anything else on this slide?
I think you're saying something kind of cool, Peggy, because in the top, the person that's holding the sign, we support students, it's time for us to support, that's our vice president. Sorry, I'm like crying because I was coughing and I was trying to hold it back. They actually show up to like most of our organizing event. It's been amazing. And it's so powerful to actually, for the ESPs to have your local leaders that sometimes you just kind of look at a distance that you feel like you don't have access, but they've been so accessible and they're fighting so hard alongside with us. They're letting ESPs do what they want and what they need to do for themselves, but they're showing up. I've got so many amazing comments from ESPs that are just thrilled to see their local leaders, their state leaders. Next slide. So this is one of my favorite picture. It's simple, but it's very powerful. So in Andover, the paraeducators were organizing, the school committee were not listening to them. And they had their petition and they rolled it out during a school committee meeting. So that's the picture of their rolling out of their survey. And it's been very impactful and powerful. And I'm going to leave it to move on to Katie so she can speak about using the Bill of Rights at the bargaining table and pushing back against her school committee. Is she here?
No, she's still not here, Sonia.
Okay, so Katie, I'll just speak on her behalf. So Katie is actually using the Bill of Rights. And remember, their school committee have endorsed the Bill of Rights. So they're asking for extremely bold demands, especially about their living wage. And the school committee is like, well, we can't afford this. And she's like, well, actually, you have endorsed this. And 2 years ago, you've committed to it. And they're really using every demand, like she said, along with their bargaining proposals. And they're using it to push back. And Katie's not afraid to put it back in the school committee's face that they endorsed it. The committee endorsed it, and they better do better by their contract. So it's been powerful for them.
Katie's back.
I apologize. Okay. My internet went out for some reason.
I think we can move on to okay, we're already there, the good slide. Okay, so we did talk a little bit about our legislative approach. Some states have gone for the legislative approach from the get-go. We're doing it the other way around. Right now, we do have something in the state that we're looking to increase the minimum wage from $15, that's the current minimum wage, to $20 an hour. And even if, like in Massachusetts, we don't qualify for the state minimum wage because we're public employees, but we also believe that even if we were able to get $20, it would impact us. it impacts our families, our communities, and it adds another layer of pressure with the school district. Even if they're not mandated to pay that amount of money, it does help and it does support us, because more money that people can make, the better. We also have a bill that's at the House right now that we're asking for $40,000 for ESPs, a base salary, and for teachers a $68,000 a year base salary. Where that came from is that we actually have a bill that it says that the teachers will make $18,000, I believe, a year. That's like from the 60s, 70s, I don't really know, but it was from a long time. So we actually are using that language and we're just revamping it. And for the first time, ESPs are included into this bill. We also have the fair share that we won, that increased tax incomes earnings for anybody that makes at 1 million or more. And so we won that at the ballot initiative, and the money that we get from the extra tax income will be is being invested in schools and education and public transportation. And then we also have the Cherish Act right now that we're fighting for, and that's to ensure debt-free public education for all. And that's also part of our demand from our Bill of Rights. We want to have education accessible for ESP. So this is really important for us. Next. So I think somebody asked a question earlier about how do you build and sustain momentum. For us, I feel when I was a member that it started with the one big contract win. And then from that, everybody wants it. And it really is powerful. So we did have one local that put a very strong and bold contract. So this was the Somerville Paris. They wanted a $5,000 increase salary on their base from the first year of their contract. And they fought really, really hard. I did see a video from them where they were talking about their living wage. They went to their school board, and it's a big town, so it's like more like we have a lot of people involved. And the ESPs went to speak and they cut their microphone, and it didn't matter. The ESP started shouting at the school committee and the town officials what their demands were. So yes, there were some, they tried to silence them, but they just went above and started yelling what they wanted. They wanted to be heard, and they were heard. And they really did a great job organizing communities, getting their parents and their student involved. Those are all things that builds capacity, and they did an amazing job. For their second contract, they were like, well, we got $5,000 the first year. So they brought their salary, I believe, from $30,000 to $35,000 for on their base salary, I believe, or it was 25 to 30. The second contract round for their contract, they actually wanted $10,000. And I do remember talking to one of my colleagues. They were at the table and they were being offered $7,000 on their base salary. And the ESP is like, no, this is not what we want. We want more. They wanted $10,000. They organized, and they organized with the teachers. It was the whole community that were organizing on their behalf. And they got $10,000 on their second year of the contract. So they went from 20,000, sorry, I forgot the numbers, 20,000 on their base salary to 35,000 based on within 2 cycles. So organizing. They found their voice, these ESPs found their voice. They find their agency. They're taking a bold action. And they're no longer accepting the status quo, and that's like very important. Next slide. So it's me again. So lesson learned, I think it's important that you know, we're doing great in Massachusetts, but we do have a lot of work that we need to do, and we need to recognize that. So one of the things that we found that was very impactful was to not just do coalition work within our own state, but also work with other state affiliate. We're doing very well. We're kind of 3 years in or so in our living wage campaign and ESP Bill of Rights. Other states are not even thinking about it. Some states are starting to think about it. Some people have started working, like Maryland are doing a great job, and have made a lot of gain. But now it's like we're getting to a place that with those coalition, we can actually still their ideas, and then we're using it in Massachusetts. So for example, the booklet that I'm working on that came from Maryland, and to get ESPs together from the different state, I think it's very impactful. So that's something that's we've learned to do, and I'm hoping that we can do more. So anybody that's on this call that's looking to connect with us, I welcome that very much. We also, something that's important is finding locals or members who wants to be the change makers. So IDing local and also IDing rank and file members, leaders are very important. Like I said earlier, you might be a one single member that wants to be a change maker, and you just have to understand that you have that power, and it's our job to utilize everybody that wants to be part of that. We had the question about the retirees. I don't know who it is. I'm hoping it's from Massachusetts that asked that question. We welcome everybody, and we understand that, collective powers where we win. Another thing that was extremely important is that we needed to listen to member, especially those that have been marginalized. If the bill rate came from the top down, I don't think that locals would have been as successful as they are now, with organizing and getting the wages that they deserve. And so it's really important to listen to members, to what they want, and to also push them to want, or to dare. I would say they want, but you got to push people to dare and hope that they can achieve what they want. And we also have to create space for members to lead our union. That's extremely important. Our unions should never be led from top down. Rank and file is no joke. This is really powerful, and we really have to create those spaces for members to lead our union. And we also, like we talked about, we need to transform the way that we think about bargaining. Bargaining behind closed doors is not something that we should ever strive for. We want to move away from that. We need to educate members about the power that it has to open bargaining. Locals are doing extremely well. They either have silent representative or they're doing open bargaining, and ground rules are out the doors. Having ground rules is not something, especially those that I consider gag orders. We want to move away from that. And by doing all of that, it's always thinking about our collective power and how do we build it. Next slide. Did we lose Lisa?
I think we did. So I'm going to go ahead and handle the question, Sonia.
Awesome.
So this
Great.
is actually not Dorothy Wu. This is Grace Wong-Friedman from the NEA. I'm going to step in for Lisa Connor. And let's take a look at these questions. I'm not sure that we answered this one, so I'm going to ask it, which is, how did you get your teachers to support the Bill of Rights? Who would like to answer?
I could speak a little to that. What we started with actually is bringing the Bill of Rights to our executive board, which is comprised of all our units of ESPs, teachers, etc., having them endorse it. And then we brought it to our representative council, and then who then disseminated it to all of our schools and to their 10-minute meetings when they go back to their schools and report out on our meeting. But the important piece was to really educate the teachers and to get them to understand how little we were respected, how little we were paid. Some of our members were bringing home 0 checks because of their benefits that they were taking, and just again going back to those one-on-one conversations and making sure that you're having that time with everyone. And there's a lot of power in your collaborating with every single member of your union, and getting that information out and really utilizing your representative council, if you have one, to get that information to everyone is important, because I believe Sonia had said earlier that not everybody knows, and we can't just assume that you know how little we're paid. It's important that we actually give them the figures. You know, this is how much I make. For example, $17 an hour, and then put that into a yearly salary. Let's say it's $20,000 a year, or giving them those figures. It's eye-opening. I think that's really one way to really encourage others to stand with us.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Lisa, would you like to?
Actually,
Okay.
Grace, if you can continue with the Q&A, because when I got booted off, it erased the question.
Sure, I can do
Thank you.
that. I do see some questions here that I think we can answer afterwards related to MTA ESP membership, and someone's interested in your social media handle. So it looks like you're going to get additional followers, which is great. So a question here from Andy Renner, which is the Massachusetts state government education friendly?
You mean like the state house? Is that what you like? Our governor? Is that what you mean? I
I
think that's what it
believe
is.
so. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll start with our affiliate leadership. Extremely supportive. That I think we've shown that left and right. Our governors, well, we just came out of like an era of representatives that were, our governor was Republican, sorry, and now is Democrat. I think it kind of sways, like we do, you know, as members do support, you know, more progressive people. So it's a hard question to answer because it's like politics, but
right.
Well, I'm always hopeful for more and better. How's that?
There you go. Perfect
Yes.
answer. So let's go on to the next question. Someone is asking, how can those of us who are not in Massachusetts follow your wins and progress? They would like to use your work and energy as an example in their district. It looks like Catherine's excited. Catherine, do you want to take on that question?
I'm just excited that you're looking to get more information and to organize yourselves and to get you what you deserve. I think that's wonderful. We have some great social media. We have the MTA ESP Facebook page. We have our website. Sonia or Peggy, if you'd like to speak to that, because you're the organizer, Peggy.
We can share that information on the Ed Communities group, right, Lisa? Yeah. So that's another reason to join, for sure.
Yeah, and also other state affiliate that wanted to do the work, or sometimes just members have called us. Can you meet with us? We have that on a regular basis. Any of our members, I mean, Katie's not a member organizer, but she's an amazing leader. I'm sure that, you know, if I would say like, hey, somebody wants to find out like what you're doing in your local, like we have such a network of people that want to do the work, that are doing amazing work. And we're trying very hard to connect everybody. But we do, sometimes we'll travel to other state affiliate to support them and to like the beauty of that is that we're not limited to what we're saying when we visit other state, right? So we can be like, hey, like we need to organize what can you do and how are you going to do it, and really support people to like find their voice in their agency to do the work.
Right. Okay, well, that's the end of, I don't have any additional questions. So-
I'll add to that by saying that in the chat, I added the flyer for our webinar series with all the dates. Saul Ramos on our ESP quality staff has volunteered to do a summary webinar in Spanish. And so those dates are also in there. And then again, we would love to have you all join the Ed Communities site. All the resources from MTA will be in there. And then as we go through our webinar series, both MSCA in Maryland and Illinois will add their resources as well. So our next webinar will be on Tuesday, October 24th. That's going to be with the Maryland State Education Association. You heard Sonia talk about, they caught wind of what Massachusetts was doing and started their own Bill of Rights campaign. And so they're going to share that with you all as well. Each one are a little bit different. And so I encourage you to join each one of the webinar series. Illinois will present on Monday, November 27th, and then we'll wrap it up with our Spanish webinar on Thursday, December 14th. Grace, I think we have a survey for you all to fill out. Because we have 3 more webinars in this series, we would love to have your feedback so we can hear from you about what was helpful and what else you'd like to know. I want to say thank you so much to our awesome MTA presenters. You guys are really forging a path and so inspiring to the rest of us. And thank you for taking time out of your really busy schedules to be here with us tonight. And thank you to my colleague Grace for facilitating tonight, and to our ESP quality team. So please take our post-session survey, and thank you all for joining, and have a wonderful evening.